So, Commissioner, welcome. Thank you for joining us for our district meeting.
Thank you for having me.
Well, first, let me begin by congratulating you on the new job. I know with all you have on your plate right now, it may feel like you've been there a lifetime, but I think it's still safe to say that you're new to the job. I'm sure there's a number of city officials that have not had an opportunity to meet you, to hear from you. So perhaps you could begin by just telling us a little bit about yourself.
All right, thank you for the introduction. Yes, most people probably don't know me. For the first 11 years of my career here at TDOT, I've been the Chief Financial Officer. And I like to think of myself like an official in a sporting event, that you don't notice the officials when they're doing a good job. And so that's what we try to do here. But I'm originally from Western New York, south of Buffalo. But we moved here to Tennessee, to Nashville, 23 years ago, and we love it here. Prior to coming to TDOT, I was the CFO of healthcare companies here in Nashville. The latest one was Alive Hospice, quite noble agency. But Commissioner Schroer asked me to come here 10 years ago, and it was a hard decision, but it was the right decision to make. So I've been doing this now for 10 years. Now I'm going on my 11th year. They've tapped me as the interim commissioner. I'm happy to do that, but I will be happy to step back to my CFO duties when the time calls.
There have been a number of federal measures that have been acted that provided substantial funding to state and local governments. And several of those federal initiatives have included funding for transportation infrastructure. So let's start with the American Rescue Plan. How do you plan to utilize these ARP or ARPA funds?
Very good question. A huge amount of money came to the state of Tennessee. $3.7 billion has actually come to the state of Tennessee. As far as TDOT's responsibility, it's really only about $60 million at this point. We have two projects, one in Anderson County for a multi-use path, and then one for connectivity to the Smoky Mountains down in Sevier County. But there are other wastewater and other types of projects that the governor's office are looking at statewide. They impact Tennessee economic and development folks, just different folks in Tennessee.
The most recent federal legislation to pass was the infrastructure bill. And my understanding is the state received about $6 billion in federal funds as a result of this bill. Can you share with us how these funds may be spent? What's the authorization and what plans you may have for these funds?
Real good question, and I'm glad you asked it because I think there's a lot of misconception about this money. So the actual amount that's coming to Tennessee is $6.2 billion. But if you read your local newspaper, it makes everyone think like we just got $6.2 billion of brand new money. We, in the FAST Act, got $4.5 billion. So it is more money. It's another $1.7 billion, but it's over 5 years. So as I said in my hearing with the governor, it is important and it was good to have it, but it's not groundbreaking for TDOT or the state of Tennessee. It will change my budget about 11 to 12%. So it is good. And we're happy to have a 5-year plan. As people have heard us talk, whether it's myself or Paul or whoever, a 5-year bill, long-term bills help with the continuity of project planning. But I'm going to put on my CFO hat for a second. There are problems with this bill. So the Highway Trust Fund gives out more than it takes in. And that's not surprising looking at Washington, but they give out more than they take in. So the FAST Act, the act that just expired, required $70 billion. This act that has just been passed doesn't require 70, it requires 118 billion. So you, as a financial person, you wonder, so where does it end? Where do we stop printing money? And what are we going to do to solve a long-term revenue strategy? Because this is not it. There are some other problems with the IIJA that just passed. So of that 1.7 billion, only about 1 billion comes to our core programs, things for congestion mitigation and air quality, roads, bridges, etc. The other 700 million is on brand new projects, things for resiliency, green initiatives, things like that. There is a chunk of that is for bridge. But again, our problem right now is we're trying to figure out what is eligibility. And once we know that, we'll have clearer answers. But the bottom line is it's a decent bill. It's fraught with some problems financially, but we will use the money expeditiously and appropriately.
Now, to be certain, the federal government's not the only source of funding for infrastructure. The bill that passed during the recent special session that was focused on the West Tennessee mega site and the Ford SK project included some funding for transportation as well. So can you tell us how those funds will be used and how they might contribute to what's being called, I guess we're calling Blue Oval City?
Sure. It's a very, very big project, transforming for the state of Tennessee. Having Ford come in with all this infrastructure and jobs is a major, major issue for us, and we're all excited about it. TDOT's role is the $200 million allocation that we got from the general fund to build the roads. And so what's very simply is going to happen is that you will see a new interchange. The interchange will happen somewhere around mile marker 39, and it will go into State Road 194. Initially, the first phase will go north a few miles, go to another connector road that will connect to the mega site. And so that is the phase one of the project, and that will be done first. But then we have to extend State Road 194 to State Road 1 and State Road 59 to the north and the south. And that is really TDOT's responsibility in this whole project, and we are on schedule.
Well, I know that's great news for those folks in West Tennessee. So just as a quick follow-up to that, Commissioner, you mentioned be done in phases. Do you have any idea of projected time of completion when you might wrap those phases up?
Sure. So the first phase, all the connections to the mega site will be done January of 25, and the remaining road to 194 to connecting to State Road 1 and connecting to State Road 59 will be done July of 26, and we will deliver those dates.
Again, while all of these initiatives, federal initiatives, and the Ford SK are greatly appreciated, it's not the only source of funding for local governments. Our principal and primary source comes here in the state. The General Assembly passed a landmark transportation infrastructure bill in 2017, the Improve Act. So now that we've had some run on this, can you share with us, in your opinion, what benefits local governments have realized under the Improve Act?
Yes. So when we passed the Improve Act, there was a benefit to cities, counties, and to TDOT. So for cities in particular, it was a phased-in approach as it was for everybody. So they were supposed to get an additional $21 million the first year, and they did. Our projections were accurate. They're supposed to get $28 million in the second year. Our projections were accurate. But then in year 3, fiscal 20, COVID hit. And so we were supposed to get 5. Instead, it was right around $34 million to the cities. This past year that we just finished, fiscal 21, it was almost back up to $35 million. So that is the piece of the Improve Act. But you have to remember, so cities got more than the Improve Act. The user fees on gas and diesel that were in place before that generate somewhere around $100 million. So in fiscal 21, right around $133 million went back to all of our cities in Tennessee.
Well, Commissioner, thanks for joining us. We wish you the best of luck, and we're looking forward to working with you. In closing, I just ask if there's anything that you'd like to add before we sign off here.
Sure. Well, again, thank you for having me here today. I always gravitate back to my role as the CFO, and my role is to provide financial integrity to this agency and to the citizens of Tennessee, and we do that every day. But we can't do that without our partners, whether they're cities, counties, legislators, whoever it is. And so we really appreciate our relationships with you all and look forward to working with you in the future.